This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
Welcome, everyone, to Off the Break Podcast. I'm Cody, and with me are Kyle and Eric.
Hello again.
Hello. We have a lot to get through today.
Yes, we do.
Huge podcast day today.
Totally natural and organic segues.
Yes.
Along the way.
Oh my gosh.
But it's all going to come together nicely, we promise. This is going to be a good one.
Better go take your bathroom breaks now.
Yes. There's a lot to talk about.
Get that cup of
Not
coffee.
building this up too much.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
No, it's actually good. It's good. So I guess we should just get started because you guys went and saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood early
there's no
shows
way I
last
was
night.
missing that.
Tarantino's newest flick.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no way I was missing that. I wanted to go at 4. I was going to be like, hey guys, is it cool if I take off a little early? Because that's when my buddy was going to go with me. But then he's like, it didn't work. But then he bailed on me at the later show time. And I was like, sucks for you. I'm still going. So I went there and...
Did you go by yourself then?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just me and Tarantino.
the occasional movie by yourself.
I feel
is
bad because
nice.
I went to
I
that
go to
same.
so many movies by myself.
I feel bad. I
love it.
went to that same show and I would have had you come with had I known.
When I'm at the movie, it's just me in the movie.
Yeah,
Fair
me
enough.
too. I don't need to go with people because I just blatantly ignore them anyways.
Yeah.
I could just sit by
It's like, I
myself.
might as well not sit next to you so I don't feel awkward about not saying anything.
I don't want to sit next to you because I don't want you to interrupt what's happening.
I mean, you
Very
can't escape.
fair. Very fair.
There are people. There's a couple next to me that I don't know. Some people just those people who are incapable of whispering.
Yep.
Yeah,
We heard a lot of those people.
There's that one
our
guy
screen.
who's like trying to be all witty and comment like all the different trailers and.
Was that the guy that yelled Tarantino?
Yes,
It was like
Oh my
Tarantino, like
God.
right at the start, and
But,
I'm like,
like,
it's not a Marvel movie.
He was
but
he
it's
was
not
trying to
this.
get like he was like trying to be all hyped up for it, but at the last second he second guessed himself. He's like Tarantino.
Yeah, and
And then the
one
woman right
reacted.
next to me is just kind of like, woo. And I was like, please shut up.
We also had
Nobody cares. We just want to watch the movie.
We also had a heck of a cackler.
I thought it was like 3 people with the exact same voice who were always in unison.
Either that or it was one person that sounded like 3 people.
Yeah,
'cause
I mean, obviously
she-
it's a funny movie, it's a
whoever it
Tarantino
was,
movie,
yeah.
but like there were a couple lines when they really hit home, like everyone in the theater was laughing, but
Yeah.
this person/persons just pierced through everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm sure they had a great time, but
I'm happy they did. They
it didn't
did
sound human.
like, but
What theater was it in? Was it a good one?
I
Little
mean,
one?
no.
none of our theaters are really that good.
No,
but
they're all
Shout
terrible.
out.
But
I mean, we'll get to the movie. Movie's incredible, but the sound was even worse than normal. Like
Yeah.
it's just pure,
And I was in the back too.
It's just
so
pure
it's-
left
I
right
didn't
coming
hear
from the
it.
front.
Yeah.
You know? I swear they don't turn on the side surround sound
No,
speakers. They just don't.
I think that they're not anymore at our theater.
Why? What's the purpose of that?
I don't know. It's not
To like
to
run
save.
their energy bill up?
I think
too
it's
high?
they broke the sound system in some of the theaters, and instead of replacing it because
It's like,
it's so old,
they won't notice.
Yeah, I think
It's
that
like,
they.
oh, we notice. It's so quiet.
Yeah, it's not only quiet; it's just that you're not getting surround sound, but you're paying for it in tickets.
I mean, like they bump it up a little bit once the lights go down and like
Yeah.
the actual movie starts. But during
But it
those
did not feel
previews-
like it.
I mean, no, but the previews was.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I'm in like the middle, pretty much the middle of the theater, and it's just so faint. Like I feel like it's just those tinny TV speakers that come on all those modern TVs now, since
Yeah.
they're so thin and they can't really fit any real speakers in there. It sounded like that if it was on like low volume.
yeah,
And that was worse for me because I was in the back of the theater for once, and the Hustlers trailer came on, and I was like, "Ooh, this is actually a really good trailer that I'm looking forward to hearing." But then, like, they use such a really bass heavy sound that it just doesn't sound like there's any bass, and then I could barely hear Jennifer Lopez telling people to go steal money with her, and I was just like, "Come on."
yeah. No,
Are you
it's
kidding
The
me?
presentation is always just terrible.
it's
but-
because they broke the sound system and they're not fixing it.
Luckily, Tarantino can make up for it.
Yeah, because he's really good at his job.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay,
obviously
so
we don't want to
what'd
give
you
away
guys-
any
yeah.
spoilers because it's a Tarantino movie. These are like big things. You want to go in and be surprised, but I like pretty much almost all of Tarantino's movies a lot, but this one in particular, I really, really liked it. It was really sincere. It was a very mature, sincere movie. The characters, while still being larger than life and very funny and entertaining and wacky and quirky, they were very honest, and they were getting at some very, very mature themes. There's a lot of empathy, I guess, in the movie.
Do you think that's a reflection of where Tarantino is at in his life? Because he's, nearing 60s, in his late 50s. He's obviously an older gentleman. He's not the young man that had a lot to say and a lot of I called it anger earlier, but frustrations
just
or
that angst.
Yeah. And more energy, maybe more.
No,
sometimes
I mean
that youthful energy is
totally
misguided.
I've seen on several other publications or sources saying that this is the first Tarantino movie that feels like the work of an older filmmaker,
right. Just a mature.
Not in a bad way at all, but like I feel like that does happen. You get to a point in your life where the things that interest you or that you think about they change, and you get a little bit more reflective, introspective.
Oh, I think
and
everybody
that completely
at that point
comes
does.
across in this movie, like, and I kind of knew that that's sort of what it was like going in, but even from like the very beginning, I was like, okay, this is what I'm in for, and that kind of colors the rest of the movie. Just watching Tarantino and also his characters deal with just major life transitions and the uncertainty of what comes next. I was joking to Kyle. I mean, I was serious, but like thematically, it is very similar to Toy Story 4. Like it's almost like a companion film. Like Rick Dalton's character is like just the real life version, the R-rated real life version of Woody from Toy Story 4. I was like, yeah, what does come next when you're past your prime and you've already fulfilled your purpose?
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff, but Tarantino handles it in a very entertaining, fun way.
Do you think those are existential issues he's got going on right now?
I'm sure he's always had his big, like, I'm going to make 10 movies and then I'm going to retire from making movies. I'm going to make plays and write novels. But I feel like it's a lot easier for him to sound confident in that in interviews.
Right.
When you think about the person and the actual like journey he's been on himself, his whole life is movies. That's his biggest passion. And like, of course, this is the perfect way to reflect on his life is through Hollywood at the time where everything was changing. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's not doubting, but just really reflecting on what he's done, what he's gonna leave behind, and what he can do now
through these characters that that are set in an era where I think if he was going to be like introspective of himself and really reflect on his things, he would probably mask that in the golden era of Hollywood because he just loves Hollywood so much, and especially that time back when it's 35 millimeter and he's a big champion of that, and so there's a lot of that I think comes back up, that he's like holding on to this golden past and using it to reflect on himself. And
absolutely, because he was only I thought he was like 7 or 8. He was only 6 years old in 1969.
Yeah,
but I have memories from when I was 6. Like people remember that, and when you're that young, things are even more grand and amazing.
Oh yeah,
and there's no doubt in my mind that was like the genesis of his lifelong love affair with the movies. So yeah, there was just a lot of things outside of the movie that colored how I saw the movie, because the movie on its own is just really entertaining, incredibly entertaining. It's a very loose flowing narrative. It takes place 90% of the movie takes place in like one day, and then like at the very end it cuts to like 6 months later. So it's not wrong to call it a hangout movie. You just kind of, follow Rick doing his thing, Cliff doing his thing. Cliff's Brad Pitt's character. Sharon Tate doing her thing. Sometimes Cliff and Rick get together. Sometimes Cliff's with Al Pacino's character. But there's always something more going on, even if it's really subtle. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Kyle, you take over for now.
Kyle, what do you think of the film?
I'm right on par with what Eric's saying. I thought that this was a really, like Eric was saying, a very loose narrative. One of Tarantino's most loose narratives probably in his filmography. But that's not a bad thing at all. I really appreciate that. I like that it wasn't feeling like it was a movie that needed to build up to something, but rather it's just a journey through the lives of different types of actors and their careers in 60s Hollywood. And I think some people might be turned off by how the narrative is presented in that way, but I really liked it and appreciated that. And the acting is incredible because I feel like these actors know like what their roles are trying to represent and what these people are supposed to be at in the situations they're in right now. And I think all three of them own it with Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, and Leo. Leo, especially for me, was one of my favorite parts.
They are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of before, like when this movie premiered at Con, there's some talk about how Margot Robbie's character doesn't have a lot of screen time. She doesn't have as many lines as the men. And I know that, between the cut of the film he showed at Con and now it's like 2 minutes longer, and a lot of that was more Sharon Tate scenes. But I really, really liked how he presented Sharon Tate in this movie. It's not like she doesn't speak. She does, but she doesn't have like a traditional ABC narrative. Like more so than the other two, you really do just kind of follow her. She's kind of
a lot of show don't tell.
Yeah, she's
not telling us.
It's just this
how she
young,
is.
free-spirited woman who we all know the tragic end of her life, but at this point in time, she's on the rise. She's probably on the cusp of a really major breakthrough. Mm-hmm. There's a really touching scene where she goes to watch one of the movies that she's in called The Wrecking Crew, and the whole time you see it keeps cutting back to her in the theater, and every time the audience laughs at something she says, you can see the joy on her face, like I can do this. I love this. This is why I wanted to be an actor. But yeah, you just kind of follow her around, and gradually the emotion takes over, I guess, and it totally works.
And I think some people are gonna not recognize that. Not to say that they can't, but just I think some people are not used to that when it comes to Tarantino in a lot of ways. So I think if people come in watching this and they don't recognize that, I think they'll have a hard time getting through this movie, especially because it's a slow-paced movie, which isn't a bad thing either. I actually think it does need to be slow-paced for this type of story. But I would just warn people that they might turn off, but at least try not to be, just because of it's telling a different type of story.
Yeah, the thing with Quentin Tarantino is he's one of the last, if not like the last, auteur director name who can draw in crowds somewhat on the scale of like a mainstream big movie. Mm-hmm. And because of that, there's a lot of different types of people that he attracts. Some people like him for the crazy blood shootouts, over the top coolness factor. Mm-hmm. Some people like the dialogue. Some people like the non-linear structure of a lot of his movies. Some people like all of it. But this one, I feel like the people who aren't going to like it are going to be more of the people who, when they think Tarantino, they think the Mexican standoff shootouts. They think the fast-paced, vulgar dialogue that's like always really funny. Because there's just a lot less of that, because it's much more focused on the reflection and really thinking about where cinema and by extension Quentin Tarantino has been, where he's come from, and what comes next. But you'll still get the crazy shootout, awesome action at the end.
It'll still feel Tarantino.
Oh my god,
it'll still feel Tarantino in parts.
Where do you think it leaves it off? Like, does Tarantino have an idea of where it's going to go for him and for cinema and all that?
I think he's hopeful. I think he's optimistic.
Or does it end in a shootout and it's just done?
Oh, there's a shootout, but it's not the very end. It's, I mean, it's funny because I don't want to give away too much, but there's a, Leonardo DiCaprio's character. He's not that old, but the way he's presented in this one shot is a cranky old get off my lawn kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yelling at are a bunch of hippies, but also represent the new culture that's taking over. So you have the past getting angry at what the new thing that's coming. But then at the end, that same new generation, not the same people, but like the new generation, he comes to embrace them, and he goes to like hang out, just go have a drink. And it's this really touching moment where
that's a very good point.
It's like, you know what? Who knows what's going to happen, but let's see.
Yeah.
It's, the more I think about it, the more, it's Quentin Tarantino is optimistic, I think.
That's a great point. Yeah, I didn't even think about it in that terms.
Movies are always changing, but there's always going to be good movies.
Right. Well, it did, I think, over 5 million in early show
it's like
grosses.
5.7, 5.8 or something.
Last night. So
that's good.
I feel like that bodes well for this weekend. I really think it's going to do well. Next weekend might be a little different story with
Hobbs and Shaw.
Just because it's a PG-13 and it's just going to suck a lot of audience.
Naturally.
But
I think a lot of people are excited for it too.
For the type of movie that this is, an R-rated, over 2.5 hour long, artsy movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to do good.
I think Sony's really just going to want that opening weekend to do really well.
Yeah.
I think they know come Hobbs and Shaw that it's going to waver.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we were talking about how well Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt acted in this and how just captivating and so much that their
screen
movies,
magnetism.
Yeah.
I missed both of them.
I know.
More than I realized.
And that screen magnetism isn't something that everybody has. Like, just very few actors have that where it just draws you and you can't take your eyes off them.
There's lots of great actors. Nobody's saying that, but we're talking about capital M movie stars.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, in the traditional sense. You seek out movies because they're in it.
Yep.
Not because like the premise sounds cool or you like the director or you liked the first one
or the brand. The first one, the brand behind it.
But because they're in it.
Right.
And here, I'll let Cody, you continue.
So we were having this discussion because there was a Hollywood Reporter article about Leonardo DiCaprio might be one of the last of those kind of actors that are just purely a movie star, not because of a franchise, not because he was in a superhero movie, but just literally because everybody likes the way he acts.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of argue that there's probably a crop of those actors of varying ages, but that
he was probably the face of that crop.
Yeah, he definitely in this movie too. Like,
oh yeah,
but he's probably some of the younger ones. Like, I just couldn't come to mind anybody much younger than him that would also be in that crop of true stars. Because even we named some like Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Gosling. They've been in rom-coms and superhero movies now. That's just maybe where it's going.
People like Robert Downey Jr. Everybody loves Robert Downey Jr., but they love Iron Man. Right. Is what they're saying.
Did they really love him when he was in Weird Science back in the 80s, or did they like is his whole
nice
film
callback.
Is his whole film career like the culmination? Because I think Leonardo DiCaprio, I can't think of a movie that people aren't like, he was really good at that.
Wait, they think
that people say that they wouldn't say he was really good at
would
that.
not say. Okay, I heard. Okay,
no,
I heard that wrong.
I mean, of course, there's always haters, but like, it's almost like a meme. Everybody loves Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
Like, when he got his Oscar, the internet went crazy. It's like, finally. Yeah, everyone was like, yeah, he probably deserved it 10, 15 years ago, but he finally got it, and everybody was rooting for him. Everyone was behind him because, it's just, you can't describe it, but he's a movie star.
He has the
Yes,
it factor in Hollywood.
But as the types of movies have changed over time, and the studios pivoting to the franchise only model, brand driven model, the ability, the power of the movie star has kind of waned. The ability to have them draw in, have that be the factor, is kind of waned.
Times are changing.
However, we were kind of discussing how in the streaming era, it might give the movie star an opportunity to rise again, because it's more of the supply of film and the supply options are so overwhelming. What is the thing that's going to make you emotionally click on something and not have to read the synopsis or be like, okay, I feel like a Star Wars movie, or I feel like one of these things, and it might be a movie star like, oh, I think this will be good because so and so is in it.
Historically, it's always been about the movie stars, and I feel like, just in the current age, the era that we're in right now, because it's so unprecedented with like streaming and having access to everything at one time, I'm sure everybody's had that experience. You go on to Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and you end up scrolling for 40 minutes.
You just get overwhelmed.
Yeah. What do you choose? But when you think about it, there's really nothing to go off of, and I feel like that's only going to get worse when every other company has their own streaming service. You're literally going to be surrounded by content, and it's just you're just going to be like, I give up.
I kind of feel like I'm doing that already with superhero movies. Like, they're not all equal to me, and the ones I keep going back to are because I kind of like the actor. Like, I really like Doctor Strange because I think Benedict Cumberbatch is awesome to watch.
You like the character, but what you're really saying is you love the way that actor brought that character to life. So yeah, they're in a superhero movie, but it's about the star. It's about the face of the story. And I feel like as streaming gets more and more just huge, people need a jumping off point. They need a hook. And
I think it's the familiarity. They need something that they emotionally can trust, because if you look at a star and you know their history, you have information right there in front of you. You have, like, are they good at acting? Like, you kind of know what you're getting with that. Yeah. Whereas I think where people get overwhelmed when they have a menu of films, of movies and options, is that they just don't know. They can't trust their decision in that moment.
And there's no human faces. You know? Yeah, there's yes, of course, there's faces on the little thumbnails.
Right.
But when it's all presented in this huge grid of just like, well, here you go. You have everything, right? This is what you want. You need that sort of like human like connection that people get from movie stars or actors or actresses that they like. And, you know, I love Nicolas Cage. Unabashed fan of Nicolas Cage. He's made a lot of crap movies, but at the end of the day,
but you know what you're getting.
Yeah, you don't. It's like, yeah, the movie's probably gonna be crap, but I'm gonna be seeing Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. And I'm gonna see the way he acts, and I know exactly what I'm getting, and I like that.
Let's see Nicolas Cage in Curse of the whatever ghost. Right. Nicolas Cage in the. It's not about the movie. It's about seeing the actor in that movie.
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel like, again, who knows? Yeah. But I feel like it's a pretty good speculation on our part to.
I think it's something that streaming and services at least are taking into consideration. I mean, Netflix has hired Will Smith for one of their big movies, and that actually had a lot of views. Apparently, Bird Box had Sandra Bullock, and that had a lot of views. Granted, there was a lot of meme trends going on with that at the same time, but Sandra Bullock was like the face of that. But I'm gonna be curious about Netflix's movie with Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot, because that might be the case to where if it does actually get a lot of views, and maybe streaming services will take that more into consideration.
Yeah, because you can search by actor, and whatever is on that.
I don't think people think about that, but you can. Yeah,
that's a good point though, because when you think about these streaming movies. It's like, obviously, there's a whole conundrum of they are streaming movies. But setting that aside, a lot of them are original movies. You know, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're good, I don't know. But it's a start that streaming services, they don't already have a built-in franchise to work with until Disney Plus comes out, of course. But they're relying on the fact, like, hey, let's just try and come up with a cool original story and then get actors and actresses that people like. And hopefully that will draw them in. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's like the beginning stages of that.
Do you think that, what was it, True Detective series? I never watched it.
I saw season 1.
Oh,
so good.
On HBO. Yeah.
I feel like it keeps coming up because really good actors keep coming into the roles.
Yeah, I mean, season 3 got Mahershala Ali.
That's one of the big things people talk about when they talk about peak TV or golden age television is all of a sudden you see these prestigious actors migrating over to television.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like, what? This isn't how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But like you think of any big major actor, like Meryl Streep, she's in Big Little Lies, Amy Adams.
By the way, that season's so good.
You can name any big actor that people can mostly agree is like a great artist. They're in television now, at least at some point. And
or in the incarnation of streaming, because it feels more like television.
Yeah, they're in television, premium channels, which then, by extension, become streaming.
Yeah.
People see them by streaming them. And so, I think we might be onto something.
Might be onto the next era of
well, the thing that I think about, too, is everybody says everything's brand-driven. But I feel like...
Which we just did.
Yeah, 80%, 90% of the brand is like Marvel, Star Wars...
Yeah.
Disney remakes, and that can't last forever.
No.
Nothing lasts forever. I've been saying for a long time that like Marvel has already peaked. I feel like Endgame was the peak. Phase 4 looks super cool, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Phase 4 looks cool. It looks really exciting, but
It'll be
I
a good
really don't think
transition.
it's going to be the consistent box office behemoth that Marvel has been for 10 years now.
Well, I don't think anything in any industry ever goes that long.
Exactly. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And once that starts going down, there has to be a new thing. Nobody knows what the new thing is, but maybe I don't know.
Right. No, it'll be good to see. But you know, actors have personal brands. It's not like we're getting away from the branding. You're just branding the individual versus the IP. Yeah. So,
which again has that human element.
So I think the actors that might do the best moving forward are the ones that are able to brand themselves via like social media, via these other ways.
Yeah, so that's just the age we're in.
So that you come to know them, and you're like I wouldn't want to watch that Hustlers movie at all. It's just not my kind of movie. But the fact that Ali Wong is in it makes me kind of want to see it because I love her stand-up comedy.
Ali Wong is in that movie?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Great example, Keanu Reeves. Everyone's so hot for Keanu Reeves. And a huge part of that is because they love the person Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. At least, what we see on the internet and what we read about. But I have no doubt that he's a good person.
People only say the nicest things about him.
Yes,
Never mind. It's Constant Wu. I thought it was Ali Wong. Now I really don't want to see it.
I knew about... You don't like Constance Wu? Oh.
Not really.
But
I finally saw Crazy
Ali
Rich Asians. I thought she was good.
She was good in that, but I don't like her as much as I love Ali Wong. I watched that Keanu Reeves movie with her on streaming.
Always be my maybe.
But
yes, my point with Keanu Reeves.
That one. Yeah,
my point with Keanu Reeves is that people love him. There's that human element. They like seeing somebody that they already like outside of the movies, and they want to see what he's doing next.
Right.
And he's not a big social media guy. He's not like tweeting out like, "Where's my Reeves heads?"
No, it's everybody.
Things like that. But people just see him being a good guy and they like him. So I feel like it's
also a badass.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a good guy who takes his job seriously.
Yeah,
and that I feel like that's going to be the secret to being a successful personal brand going forward.
Yeah.
Get the people to like you, and here's a hint: people tend to like good people. Mm-hmm. So be a good human. And maybe that'll coincide with the rise of the movie star.
I was thinking we should call them Ted Heads.
Oh, yeah.
Ted Heads.
Funny.
I couldn't remember if he was Bill or Ted though. I had to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Heads. Branding that.
That'll especially come in handy next year when that movie,
I'm so excited
or
for
that sequel or whatever it's
movies.
called.
But
they are really good movies.
They hold up. They're great.
Surprisingly, as kind of dumb as they are,
they're lovably dumb.
They are lovably dumb. They're very positive. Like there's nothing.
Oh, they're so warm.
Yeah, and that's very rare to find that.
Just like
enthusiasm, positivity,
right?
If you want a dose of it, those are good movies.
But yeah, that's kind of our spiel on the movie star. Who knows what'll happen, but
just something that we thought of and what you all should be thinking.
It's what Quentin made us think about with his movie. That's very much about this whole question.
Right. Moving on from the movie star, the rise of the movie star, our industry is always faced with different challenges, and how does theaters in the streaming era adapt and react? And there's been a call from some former studio executives to talk about variable pricing in the theater.
What is variable pricing?
Variable pricing is when you charge a different price for a movie based upon a number of factors. It could be that you don't think that the movie is going to perform as well, so you would give it a cheaper ticket price to get people to come in because they don't want to invest in the money in something that they don't really want to see.
Sounds like discrimination.
Variable pricing could just be that it's been in the market so long, and so that there should be a price drop at a certain point. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways it can take form. We see it a little bit, not within a complex, but there are, sub-run houses, dollar theaters. There's what we call intermediate theaters, where they might have a cheaper ticket, but they don't get to open movies when they open nationally.
Yeah.
And then there's first run. Well, in some of these articles in the trades, they've been talking about having first run theaters have variable pricing on brand new movies, but I just feel that is so misleading to people and puts theater owners, like they're the ones that are not doing variable pricing. They're the ones that need to adapt when really it's very studio driven. You're not going to tell Sony or Paramount or even Disney that their film isn't going to do very well or has been in the market too long and you want to charge a different price.
Yeah. Who are you to say?
Yeah. You're not going to tell Sony, hey, you're getting a $5 ticket, whereas Disney, because they have Lion King, are getting a $15 ticket.
Yeah.
Like, that's just never going to happen. And who makes those decisions? So the article never gets into details on how this would ever work. But is the theater owner going to make the decision? Is the theater owner going to get punished somehow with not getting movies in the future because they did that? They made that call that the movie wasn't going to be very good. Is it subjective to the buyer? I mean, maybe sometimes we think that movies will do better than they do, or are going to be turds, and they're not. So who gets to make that decision is a big deal. Do we have to get permission from them? Be like, well, you didn't open very good, so we should have variable pricing now. I mean, do we have it going in? There's just so many questions, and I think what bothered me most about that article was that.
Where was the article?
It was on Hollywood Reporter.
Okay.
I feel like it was Chris Aronson, which is a former Fox executive, was talking about it. And his big thing was Stuber should never have been priced at the same price as like a Lion King.
He was a former Fox executive and he was making this pitch?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Because I imagine like he would think of what you're saying pretty much. It's like, how does...
He knows. It's just throwing the theaters under the bus. Like, the industry is failing because theaters aren't doing variable pricing, or they're not adapting, or they're charging too much.
It's their fault.
He made the point, the article made the point that in what the Movie Pass showed was that people were willing to go to the movies. They just didn't want to pay the price. Well... Yeah, that's easy for the studio to be like, hey, theaters charge it cheaper, but the studios at the same time take 3/4 of the box office.
Yeah.
So what are theaters to do? Like, they are taking on all of the liability and all of the maintenance and all of the cost of actually having a physical building to show the theaters, to show movies in.
Just to show your R-rated comedy that no one wanted to see, or no one went to see.
So studios aren't paying for the labor costs of all the theater, of the theaters. They're not paying for the energy costs and all the utilities and so buildings are expensive, and studios aren't picking up the tab for that. So that's on the theater owner. And when the studio takes most of the box office and film rental, where is the theater owner going to make that up?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we always talk about concessions or where they make their money. That's because studios are taking their hand from the box. So if we have variable pricing, are the studios going to lower their terms because their movies were bad? No, I don't see them lowering terms ever. Are they going to? And
even still, I don't think people would want to pay cheaper to go see a bad movie anyway.
Well, I think they would. I think the problem with movies is that, and this is why studios have pivoted to franchises, is because there's a certain level of knowing what you get for your dollar.
Yeah.
And people just don't want to risk what limited media dollars that they have to spend on a film that's an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you know that it's maybe not very good because it's not getting good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, you don't want your threshold of wanting to pay for that and how much you pay for it is lowered.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. The theaters, I think, for a long time would have loved to have variable pricing. It's just who gets to determine that. What happens to your terms when you do, and what's going to happen with the windowing? As we go into the streaming and there's this big push to close the windowing on the exclusivity of theaters getting to show this product. Do they get to have variable pricing within their window? Is it within the streaming window? There's just a lot of questions that come into this that were never ever even addressed in the article. It was very much a clickbait article, but I just wanted to kind of talk about the idea of variable pricing and how it's just, everybody knows it's never really going to work, but it's definitely conversations we need to have within the industry because streaming is putting a wrench into it. For the first time, maybe we will get variable pricing because they're going to close the theatrical window so low for streaming to get it quicker on streaming, then how can they justify charging us, one, the terms they are, and two, at the price points that they have to when it's available elsewhere for free. So I think variable pricing will come into play maybe down the road, but I think it'll be hand in hand with streaming and windowing.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it would be through windowing. Other than that, I don't see how there's any way to justify who gets to choose what prices are for what. Like, regardless of studio or theater owner, like, there's just no reason why either one deserves to, not deserves, but there's no reason why either side should have
and let's just
the idea of knowing how that should work, I guess.
And it's part of the master licensing agreement. All theater owners must sign with the studio to be able to license its product, that they can't do variable. They can't charge different for that studio's product what they would charge for something else.
Then that rule would have to change.
Yeah,
and all of them would have to agree, but I don't think everyone's going to agree on that.
No,
so I guess there's no real point. I don't know. At this point, then I say, why bother thinking about this being a possibility other than maybe the windowing system that you're suggesting?
Right. I think
like in its final 2 weeks maybe.
I think we have to think about it, because they did make a good point that what MoviePass showed was obviously you will get more attendance at the theaters if the cost barrier is lowered. I mean, and that just makes sense, but you are also undervaluing your product with a subscription-based service. So I think that there needs to be a happy middle between letting the theaters decide the true cost of the ticket and keeping the studios out of that a little bit, because the theaters have to bear the cost of the actual physical building. So they need to be able to cover that cost to be able to keep the lights running in the house. So
yeah.
It's definitely more nuanced. Ideally, I'm such an advocate of the theater that I like to see the theater make those decisions. But you are licensing product from another company, and the company's going to want to protect their product for their own purposes. So it's just going to be a bigger battle. But that article is very misleading. Don't read it. I know I'm bringing it up, but don't read it.
I think I'm gonna read it just because I wasn't familiar with this one. I like to see his points a bit more. But I don't know. Just from thinking about the whole situation of it all, I just don't see it being feasible.
Yeah,
to say the least. So.
I mean, they did have a good point. A big bump in the industry we're seeing is Super Saver Tuesdays, which are discount days. But the theater
those have been a thing for a while, haven't they?
Yeah, they've always been there. But on there's always been restrictions, like you can't discount a ticket on a discount day in the first couple weeks of a run of a film.
Okay.
So you see them more in like big multiplexes where when there's competition in the area, and two, like they will play something on a screen for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, so that down the road there's a one discount day.
Okay.
But a $5 ticket day does get a bump, It just when the cost barrier is lowered, you will get more attendance. It's just at what point do you keep it lowered enough to get the attendance there, but also, retain enough that you can cover your costs.
People just like free stuff.
They do. Everybody wants something for nothing.
Let's just get rid of money.
Let's just make money not
Let's barter.
Let's barter. Yeah, well, I like thinking about that though. I mean, the industry's always changing, and there's always ideas of how to do it. But
everybody's always wanted variable pricing, but it's never been a thing. I'm really surprised now. It's like being thrown back in the theater's face. Like, we should have always had variable pricing. Well, you should have let us, because the theaters have always wanted variable pricing. But that's fine. ComicCon.
Yeah. It happened last week.
It happened.
Weekend? Yes, last weekend.
Yeah, we had that early podcast, so we didn't get to...
we missed like the bulk of all of it.
That probably would have been a good weekend to be there.
You guys had to leave me here, and I'm just sitting here like, wow, that would have been nice to talk about. That would have been really cool to talk about. That would have been nice to talk about.
Whoops.
I had the worst journey trying to get to my camping destination. It was like an odyssey. It should have taken... it was in another state. It should only have taken maybe 6 hours, 7 hours to drive there. And,
So
you know, with
long time.
stops and stuff, it took us 12.
Oh my god.
We took a wrong turn. There
Bummer.
was like traffic galore. We made the mistake of going through a national park. And in my childhood, I'd always cut through the park.
Mhm.
It had never been an issue. That's the route we took to get to my family's, like, you know, like my family hometown, my dad's hometown. And now the parks are just so busy that they are totally like amusement parks. It was like bumper to bumper traffic the whole way through there, that we took a wrong turn just to get out of it. And then we were no closer to our destination than when we had started 4 hours earlier in the day.
Jeez.
So
Well, that's much worse than mine. I just complained that I
my
have a cracked
gosh.
windshield now, but
You have a
yeah, yours
cracked
was
windshield?
way worse. Yeah, I do.
oh, bummer.
Well, yours sounds way worse, so I feel better about my trip.
I got sunburned because we were stuck sitting in the car in the
Mhm.
line of traffic, and I
So
dare
the
not
sun
get
is
out.
just yeah.
I got sunburn on the tops of my knees just being in the
Mhm.
car. I'm like, this is terrible.
I feel ya.
Luckily, the little boys did really good because we have movies in the back. We watched so many movies.
Thank God for movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, we missed ComicCon because of our
we were
crummy
on
vacations.
we were on our odysseys. We returned home though.
Yeah.
That was
What
good.
what would you say are like the biggest news? Obviously, there's the Marvel slate, which we'll talk about here in
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well,
but like
that's
that.
yeah.
I mean, we saw the new It Chapter 2 trailer.
That's
you know,
true.
Which is more of a traditional trailer than the one that's been out.
That trailer's great though.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a very good trailer. I'm glad that they're so confident in this movie that they only started out as having like a teaser trailer, but now they're saying like, no, this is the final trailer. I mean, yeah, they're ridiculous how they name trailers, but at least like it kind of shows confidence.
Yeah.
No, I'm
That they
sure.
really
I hope
like
the
it.
movie will be good. It does.
But that was a really good trailer.
I'm hoping that it'll be kind of an event like the first one was. The cast they have for the adult kids, again, like we've said, is
phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so stacked.
It's
and
really
when you
good.
see him next to the kids, like
Mm-hmm.
it's weird.
It's a really great casting,
It
how
looks
they're
so
so
good.
closely
Yeah.
identical. I actually do think Top Gun was some of the biggest news that came
I would
out of
argue that
that
was the biggest surprise.
yeah, at
And
least when
we're-
it comes to movies.
we're gonna talk about
during
that trailer
Comic-Con.
more in depth in a little bit, but
yeah.
I don't think anybody was expecting that.
Mm-mm.
No,
I was like, is that even still a thing happening anymore?
I was like, I remember that was announced like last year or so, but we haven't heard anything from it.
Yeah.
Apparently, they had the trailer like ready for a while, but they just decided to drop it here because they figured it would be like a big bomb.
eh, they were showing
Yeah.
Terminator stuff anyway. Why not throw in Top Gun?
More 80s stuff.
So let's
Yeah,
get
but
to the
that was a
Marvel
good one.
panel because I think that's what the big news
that
was.
was
That's
the
what
biggest
everybody
news,
talked
yeah.
about.
Marvel has to take up all the news.
Well,
They were
it
the
was
only ones that
pretty cool.
showed up.
I get back from my trip and I'm like, what happened, guys? What's the news? I know that Marvel dropped some stuff, but did anything else happen? And it was like, no, not really.
Yeah,
So-
but we already knew this was going to happen. None of the studios were there.
So basically, they announced their slate, but only for the next 2 years,
Yeah,
which
they're-
I thought was a good thing. They don't
Right.
want to
Yeah.
get people already speculating and fan theorizing for a movie that's not coming out for another 7 years.
As cool as it was to see like a 7-year slate like what the last phase was, I think this is good, especially after Endgame, to be like, okay, like we do have a lot of stuff. A lot of it's going to be in theaters. A lot of it will also be on Disney Plus. But we also don't need to bombard you with so much content. Like here's
Yeah.
just a little bit. So
Look forward to this
Yeah.
handful. Let us work on the other stuff so that when we do reveal them, there's actually stuff worth
yeah,
revealing.
I mean
So-
they didn't reveal
Right.
Black Panther 2 at all for a release date. They didn't show anything for Guardians 3 or even announce a Spider-Man 3. But I think those will come probably in the next 2-3 years or so, or at least more announcements will be made of it. So no one worry about that stuff. But
Just give us a quick rundown of what they did announce.
do you
the
guys want me to include
theatricals-
Disney Plus stuff at all, or should we just do the theatrical
say
releases?
the names of the Disney Plus stuff,
Okay.
just so that we can compare.
Okay, cool. So first up is going to be Black Widow, which is releasing next year, May 1st.
Is that Disney Plus?
That is not Disney Plus.
Yeah, do all the theatrical ones first.
Okay, I'll do it
so we're
that
on
way.
Theatrical Plus
Yeah.
Theatrical Plus first.
Only on Theater Plus. Sadly, that could be a thing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But when it comes to theater releases, that's the first one. After that will be The Eternals, which comes out in November of 2020. After that will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Only the best. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Let me back up. After The Eternals will be Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, which will be released February 12th, 2021.
These titles.
Which I know, the title's fantastic still. After that will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Again, great titles for May 7th, 2021. Followed by that would be...
in November of that year.
With Thor, Love and Thunder.
Thor 4.
Thor 4, Love and Thunder, which I love the title. I've actually been hearing a lot of people poo-pooing it, but I don't know. I think
that's what Thor is now.
Yeah.
Like, that fits perfectly.
So I don't get what people are complaining about. But those are the theatrical releases.
You can
as
fit
of
them all.
now.
Can you fit them all on one hand?
I mean, I named 5, right?
I can't remember them already, but I like that you can fit them all on one hand.
It was Black Widow,
because
Eternal,
it's like, okay,
Shang-Chi, Thor,
Doctor Strange.
and Doctor Strange. Yeah,
that's 5. Nice.
And I like that these are kind of becoming more solo stories again. Like we're taking a step back.
That was my
and
biggest
just being
takeaway.
like, let's just tell independent stories. Maybe introduce a new character like Eternals or Shang-Chi. Maybe introduce a new Black Widow in the Black Widow movie. I don't know, but I like that they're going to be scaling it back a bit.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's going to be a lot more self-contained, really diving into doubling down on like the pulpy, comic-y aspect of it.
Do we get to find out why Black Widow had blonde hair then when we see her again in Infinity
These are the
War?
real questions.
I think this movie takes place between Civil
Did I say
War
black
and
hair, blonde
Infinity
hair?
War. So it's
It
possible. I think the identity thing, concealer. I don't know. Sure.
No, I think the most interesting thing though that I took away from this, which is why you don't have to say the Disney Plus things, because, was
go theaters,
because like half of the slate is Disney Plus thing with like the Loki series and the Hawkeye series, and I'm just wondering if going forward, if there's going to be like a clear differentiation between the theater movies and the streaming things, because. Are those series or are those movies?
Those are going to be series. They're going to be like mini series,
All
almost
of them
like
are?
8 episodes. Pretty sure.
Okay, so I'm wondering if there's going to be aside from the length, like production. I'm talking like production value.
Sure.
The technical aspects. Whether or not there's going to be a clear difference between the two, and how audiences will react to the streaming things. Will it mesh? Because I don't think a lot of people would say that the Marvel series we already have, like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, while they're, I'm sure, still good, nobody's saying that they're like on the production value of the Marvel movies.
But that was on Netflix.
I know. That's why I'm wondering, because
they
now
put some money into them, but I
now
see
with
what
Disney
you're saying.
backing it, and obviously Disney has a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how that's going to change just kind of the cultural perception of Marvel.
I don't think it's going to change too much. I think they're going to want to keep their movies and shows looking identical going forward in terms of production value. And I think since TV already is ramping up its game to almost feel like mini movies in a way when it comes to production value, I could see Disney just doing the same. And you're right, they have the money to do it. So.
I mean, I guess I'm just wondering how the saturation of the streaming things with the theatrical will, if that'll change the perception of it all. Because right now, when people talk about Marvel, they're talking about the movies, they're talking about the events that they all go to the theater to see. But maybe, who knows, if now that there's this big selection of potentially equal production value streaming things, if maybe people won't be as inclined to go to the movie theaters to see those ones, because there's more of the streaming things. Maybe the more casual people will, because the Marvel movies always attracted everybody.
Yeah,
a lot of super casual people who just go because that's what everyone's seeing.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wondering if the casual people won't be as inclined to go because they're like, well, isn't there another one that's coming to Disney Plus here soon? Maybe I'll just wait for that.
I'm not sure either. I think Marvel's still going to try to have so much connective tissue to where it will feel like people are mostly inclined to keep checking it out. Like, for example, WandaVision, they're supposed to loosely tie it into Multiverse of Madness because
Wanda's in it.
Because Scarlet Witch is going to be in it.
She's not dead? Oh no, that's right, she came back. I can't keep up with everybody.
So I think they're going to still try and do that, but I think it's not going to change so much for casual audiences because they're, like you were saying, they're just going to be like, oh, I got to go see it because everyone else seeing it, and just go in blind. I mean, that's what happened with Endgame, like.
I wonder too if people aren't going to be just confused by it all because like we were talking here in the office about the Shang-Chi movie and you're like, what's the 10 Rings? Eric didn't know that the Ten Rings were part of Iron Man 3 and that they were a real thing.
Who's gonna remember that?
And that there was that whole scene,
Us?
that whole short video scene at the end of, I can't remember what it was, that where he
The one shot with Ben Kingsley's
in the
fake
prison,
Mandarin character in
and
prison.
they have to bust him out of prison.
Yeah.
And you saw the Ten Rings actual tattoo to show it was a real organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And Eric
Totally
didn't
over my
know.
head.
And I'm like, oh gosh, what is...
That was
How
like
do you not know that?
I think that
Like-
was it was filmed to be like a DVD extra, but you could see it all over online.
I think it was when they were
and I
doing
think it's
those one-shots still. It was like
Yeah,
the last
it was
of
I
the
don't
around
even
that
know what the
time.
one-shots are.
The one-shots is what started after the end of credit scenes. They were short little shorts, like 30 seconds or whatever, little films.
So
or
they
a couple
are the end
minutes.
credit scenes?
no.
They are what the end credit scenes turned into, but they're the beginnings of them. So they had one titled Thor's Hammer, On the Way to Thor's Hammer, and that was Agent
Coulson.
Colson. I want to say Clark because that's his name, Clark Gregg.
Agent Clark Gregg.
Agent Clark Gregg. Agent Colson stops
That's a
in
great
the
name.
Yeah.
in the mini store and in the mini convenience store, and it's gonna get robbed, and he saves
They're not
the
all
girl.
important, don't worry.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
that's it. They just the one shots are what started the after credit scenes because
Okay.
they were purposely created as like little one-offs. I think one was in the Agent Carter one.
Yeah, there was something that happened with Peggy. I don't know. I actually
and
am
I
not
think
familiar with
that's
that
what
one.
started her short-lived series.
Yeah.
Because it was so popular, people wanted more Agent Carter.
The most popular one for sure is the one shot of Ben Kingsley's Mandarin being taken out of prison.
Yeah.
Because there was so much backlash for
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
Mandarin twist as well.
There's just a lot.
I mean, I do think a lot more, not diehard fans, but audiences who like frequently watch these movies.
or have really good comprehension and remember what they're seeing. Eric.
I'm not too surprised about Eric not. I'm honestly not too surprised about Eric not remembering. Like it's really okay, but it's just a cool way
Weird.
for them to be able to tie it back together.
well, I mean, I guess, like we said earlier, nothing can last forever. And part of me wonders if this doubling down on the comic booky aspect, the pulpiness, the connective tissue, now that it's spread out across two major mediums, if maybe, because nothing lasts forever, the core fan base will stay, and that's a big fan base. So,
Well, that's
it'll
the fan
probably
base
always
they
be big.
want for
Yeah,
the streaming
I think,
because they'll pay for it.
Endgame, the culmination of that's the peak of it. All of the casual non-core fan base included, because everybody had to be there, but maybe they'll just kind of fall off, and Marvel won't go away, but it's not going to be the dominating thing.
Well, I think maybe their strategy has shifted. They are going to do the Disney plus the streaming stuff for the hardcore fans that are willing to pay for streaming consistently.
Yeah.
And then they'll do the one-off event films for the casual fan that just wants to pay for it one-off. So they're still capturing the media dollars of the whole group. They're just getting it maybe more consistently through one medium and then on the big events of the other.
I'm just trying to figure out what and how Marvel will decline from its reigning supreme throne, because it has to happen. It has to happen.
Odds are it'll probably be when they start to just not be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen several different polls from like a bunch of different websites. They're always like, "What was your favorite announcement at ComicCon?" or "What was your favorite part of the Marvel slate?" And it's like combined, like 80% of them are for the heroes we're already familiar with. Thor, Doctor Strange, those two together, boom, that's like 80% of the votes.
Yeah.
And then there's some for Black Widow and like nothing for Shang-Chi or for the Eternals. And that's just, I know those,
Was there
those are
nothing
just
for Blade too? Because Blade
wasn't on
announced with
on
Ollie.
there. Yeah.
Was it not on there? Okay.
I mean, maybe it was, but it was tiny.
That was one I forgot to mention, but that's
that just
farther
goes
down
into
the road,
my
2020.
theory that
We joked, not my Blade.
this next phase isn't going to be as popular because the people that everyone was so invested in already are gone. Casual people aren't going to want to
Maybe.
get reinvested in.
I mean,
a
that's
whole new
that's
cast.
scary for me to think of because I think there is potential for these characters to become memorable. I mean, because that happened with the Guardians, like Guardians, no one knew, and now they're like the biggest faces of Marvel's brand.
Thanks to James Gunn.
Yes, a big chunk of it goes to James Gunn, of course, but I just hope that can happen again
We'll see if
because
James
there's
Gunn
a lot of potential here.
has the power to do that with Suicide Squad. If Suicide Squad doesn't work, then it's then you can't you say it's
Yeah.
only James Gunn. I would
Exactly.
think. Can't take any character and make it amazing. No.
Or can you? No, I don't know.
It does show, though, that, and this is what I've always been fearful about streaming. Not that streaming was going to just totally displace theaters, but what it's doing is taking content from theaters. This is
Yeah.
content that theaters totally could play. I'm glad to see that it's more serialized, so that it's just in mini series rather than one-off movies. But I just feel that some of that could still been theatrically dominant, and that theaters could use it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest announcement at Comic-Con, so there you go. A week later, but we did it.
You're welcome.
then maybe what we'll be seeing at a Comic-Con panel next year is for movie theaters, or should be at CinemaCon. We should all talk about this at CinemaCon next year. The threat of drones.
Dun, dun, dun.
What do you mean?
Well, it started
Drones and
because we got a phone call.
Here
I'm
in
not
the
gonna use any
office.
names or anything. We got a phone call, and basically a theater owner was telling me that they're building up like a small army of drones so that they could send them out to attack and break and take down other drones that people are using to pirate movies. I think it was The Lion King.
Yeah.
They were using to pirate The Lion King. And at first I was like, what? And then Cody told me, oh, it's probably a drive-in.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so
that makes sense. I didn't even think about that possibility.
Just real quick, why are you pirating The Lion King when there's already an animated movie?
Well,
because
but
pirates are stupid.
because they can put it online and get clicks.
Yes, I
All
just
about the
I'm just
It's all
jokingly
about the
meaning
clicks.
like you already have the anime version.
Right.
No, but that's it. It seems like a very small thing, but I
But
mean,
man.
it's funny, but it's a real thing.
It could be a real
Apparently.
thing. So if everybody has to be, I hope, familiar with a drive-in theater, but if you're not, drive-in theaters are huge screens out in the middle,
Excuse me.
basically of a field,
Hope they
and
didn't hear
you
that.
sit in your car and you watch the film in the luxury of your car over your car sound system.
Yeah, you like tune it to a certain radio
Yeah.
station, right?
And they're making a resurgent comeback, mostly in southern states where the temperature and the weather are better year round, but we have them up here in the north, and they play just in summers, and it's really fun. They do very well.
Yeah, I've been to a couple.
They're very
Yeah.
popular. But
So
what we're
grown-ups.
but in this new era with technology, and piracy concerns, drones can cause an issue. I mean, it's one thing to be like on the ground trying to record on your little phone the
That
screen.
shady hooded guy from all
Yeah.
those movie theater ads.
And you're got the cars all in front of you. So I don't think it's ever been a problem from phones, but you get a drone up there that sees eye level with the screen and can take the screen in its whole view.
Mm-hmm.
I can see
It's
where
not.
people,
It's still not going to look good, but you can do it.
but you can get high definition GoPro footage in 4K. I mean, you can get great footage from a drone now. I mean, the real estate industry is using
Oh yeah,
them
the
like
cameras
crazy.
are crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what they would do about the audio, but like maybe hold up a mic to the radio station and then sync it up
Do
and then
you-
put that online.
Yeah, I mean, they would not get audio, that's for sure, but you could get video for clips. I mean, and you could get the video on there. So, it's an interesting conundrum. Now, I don't think we need to go out and advocate having your own drone army to take out the foreign
I'm
enemy
all for it.
drones, but it is maybe something to consider. There are some drive-ins that do have speaker systems.
Yeah.
I would definitely go to only car stereo systems, so that you can hopefully protect the audio and they can't get both.
Yeah.
I don't know what else, you do other than maybe having, like, you can have camera lights, like laser lights that can maybe flash around that wouldn't hit the audience on the ground, but maybe would hit that level in the air so that you get a nice laser projection right through it to the camera.
You have a guy with a gun just walking around.
Well, that's what I was doing because when I
You have
wrote
a
about
turret
this,
But please,
next to the theater.
but please don't do that. We're already
well, when I was
fearing our
writing
lives as it is.
writing about this, I was like, this is such a bizarre thing that I can't believe nobody really thought of before. Well, what are some actual realistic solutions?
Right.
If you take your drones, counter drones, and take them down, what if they like fall on a person's car and like dent
gonna
their
watch
hood?
that over the movie
things
any
like that.
day.
You can't do that, but you also can't have a guy constantly walking around like checking every car, like
you guys got any drones?
You piloting any drones?
Yeah.
Prove it.
Prove it.
So like, you know,
and you don't even need to be in the drive-in lot.
No, you're
to
not
be able
to be
to pilot the drone.
in the vicinity.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of jokingly, I was like, well, really, what can you do other than like take another drone and like clamp like a big piece of plywood or like a cardboard and just like park it in front of the other drone, just like block their camera?
Can the drone even like withstand the weight of that?
If it's just a sheet of cardboard, maybe, you know, just like jerry rig it, duct tape like a binder clip to it, and then clip a piece of cardboard to that, tape it onto the drone, fly it up and park it in front of the other drone and block the camera. But like, you know, this is such a modern day 2019 thing.
And it's probably not a big deal, but the theater can get in trouble. Like if it gets traced back that somebody recorded at your theater, you can get in trouble from the film company for that. Like you
are
good.
watching out for those shady pirates.
Yeah, that's why theaters do theater checks. That's why somebody comes into the auditorium to make sure nobody's recording. It is on the theater to do that. It's going to be on these drive-ins to make sure that this stuff, and you don't even need the audio if it's a big film like a Marvel movie where there's a twist ending.
Yeah.
You know, and people just want to know what the ending is.
Yeah.
And
who would want to know the ending beforehand?
Sick person would seek that out before they even saw the movie.
Makes me sick.
Got deranged. Just not in the right mind.
But Eric did have like a really good opinion article about this on silverscreeninsider.com, so you guys should check it out. It's a really fun read, and he makes some good points. Yeah, of course.
I really liked it. Whoa, this is such a bizarre issue, but it doesn't mean that it's not a legitimate one.
Just know SSI is the first to report on the drone security issues.
We're starting to worry. Well, not starting to worry, but we're looking out for you guys.
Yeah,
we are, and all the crazy things that technology could do. Because drones are getting more and more like easier to obtain, cheaper, and just more sophisticated. And the image quality you get on them is amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
The future is now.
I haven't been, but I should go back to a drive-in theater because we have one close by to us, and I just haven't been there in so many years.
I've only been there twice. I mean, I'm sure I went when I was really little, but the other time I went was a double feature of The Other Guys and Grown Ups. Neither which were that good. But
I think that's a experience of the drive-in. You know? Actually, I think this is how long ago mine was. It was when that Underdog remake came out. I was young when that came out. But that was like one of my favorite theater experiences.
It's a cool way to see it.
Yeah, because I was like with my cousins and we were watching Underdog because we were.
I was with my cousins in my driving experience too.
Well, there you go.
Go
to them with your cousins.
I don't remember my last drive-in experience.
On
Grown Ups, is that the one where they go like on vacation all together with their
it's
families?
like Adam Sandler.
Yeah, they go.
Chris Rock.
They go camping.
Favorite
David Spade
from that I've always still used. I want to get chocolate wasted.
It's weirdly a funny movie. I don't know. I think it's one of his good ones.
I mean, it's horrible, but it's a guilty. I would be lying if I said it wasn't a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah.
I never saw the second one though. But
the second one's. I don't think that one's very good. But
anyways, let's get on to the trailers and then.
Yes, there were trailers.
There
were trailers that dropped this week.
Let's talk about the Top Gun trailer since we mentioned that.
ComicCon. So I mean, what can you say? It's Top Gun.
It's Tom Cruise is back.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fine.
but care for it. But
in this day and age, even if it looks good, there's still a thing in the back of my head like, why do we really have to come back to this story? Like, I don't know. Because it'll make money. And then when I realize that that's probably a major reason why it's happening, it makes it kind of hard to get invested in it.
I just had a hard time trying to decipher if it's trying to pay homage to the first one at all, or if it's trying to be like it's
remind you,
hey,
this is a thing.
Well, when it was first announced, they made a big deal about
that's my one concern. But I did think it looked like a really cool looking movie.
It's slick, like the production value is there. It looks cool.
Yeah.
But like when it was first announced, there was a big deal about Miles Teller is going to be his son, and you kind of got the sense that there's going to be the classic new generation of younger pilots that come in. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But this trailer was all about Tom Cruise getting like questioned by Ed Harris, who has like so many wrinkles.
He did not
Oh
look.
my god.
He's getting up there,
Like,
guys.
directed.
It's not
I feel
his
like he's
fault.
looked the same forever
And then
until
all of a
this, and I'm
until
like,
all of a
oh
sudden
my
he's,
god,
like,
it's
old.
like a fractal that never ends.
Maybe
on
working
his
with Tom
cheeks.
Cruise does that to you.
Yeah, probably.
But no, he's getting up there in his years,
so
that's
yeah,
for sure.
He's questioning Tom Cruise about why he is continue to have such an illustrious career of being a captain the whole time and not moved on, and then it flashes back that that whatever spiel over old flashback scenes of the original, new scenes of the new piloting and the new aircrafts and the new areas that they're going to be showing it
It's
off.
very much a teaser type trailer.
Oh yeah, it didn't give the story anything away other than that Tom Cruise is still a pilot in the same position he was back in the first movie.
Jennifer Connelly's in it, who I always like seeing.
Did you even see her in the trailer?
Yeah, you see her for like a split second.
Okay.
Like on a motorcycle or something.
I didn't.
As you do.
I just didn't like how they used the old footage of the original movie to be like.
I rewatched it.
Remember
Yeah.
Top Gun?
I rewatched it after you told me that, and I still don't see it. I don't know.
I
Maybe
think the one that got me was, the scene where
It's him and Iceman in a
Goose
bar or
playing-
something,
It's Goose playing
Goose.
the piano, and they're seeing the bar.
weird. Maybe
That's
it's
Yeah, I
actually
think
a
that's
really
it.
good
Yeah,
scene
yeah,
because
yeah.
Meg Ryan's like, that's my favorite line from the whole movie where she's like, "Take me to bed or lose me forever."
Good line.
She plays.
I think
the
it
wife.
has been a while since I saw the first one then, because I rewatched that scene and I was like, I still don't see it, but maybe I'm weird. Maybe I'm just weird, you know.
I just like
But-
that one.
But
scene.
I still
That's
enjoyed
happening.
this teaser.
Yeah, I don't know. How many times can you say why do they need to remake this? Everything's being remade, everything's
I
brought back,
liked-
nothing ever ends.
I liked the sweeping mountain scenes because that's kind of where we live, and I'm like, oh, nice, that's so pretty.
Yeah, that was my takeaway.
I don't think that's what I'm supposed to take away from that, but I was
the
like,
money
ooh.
shot was Tom
So
Cruise
beautiful.
Tom Cruise in the jet, but then you see him surrounded by the other jets following him, and I was like, oh, that's a cool shot.
Yeah,
Like
of course, Tom Cruise. I read that he made all the other people have to learn to fly the jets themselves.
and then you had to learn.
You're gonna be in this movie with me. You were gonna fly for real.
And then you had to teach real pilots like how to do the cinematography of showing like those other pilot. Like it's crazy.
I'm
cool.
sure there's lots of
It's-
cool technical stuff going on. It's
Yeah.
just
But that was the money shot for me.
I
I,
don't
was
know.
like,
We'll-
that could be cool.
we'll see if it'll probably make money because for some reason Top Gun is like a huge thing. You know, I always just
Yeah.
kind of thought it was another one of Tom Cruise's like early movies. They're kind of all just blended together into young Tom Cruise movies.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, that one is just like huge.
Yeah,
So.
something about.
Planes.
I think it was
Val Kilmer is going to be in it, right?
yeah,
he's in
he
it.
is.
Talk about another one that doesn't look the same as when he did when he was younger. Although to be fair, he did have throat cancer.
Yeah.
So there is a reason.
Yeah, so he had
actually
some
did not
stuff
know
going
that.
on. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but he's still doing well though. It seems like from it. So, but yeah, he's gonna be in that too, which will be pretty cool to see.
Top Gun Maverick. It's a
Yeah,
thing.
it was at ComicCon.
And the other two trailers, I guess we can talk about A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
I think we do
Ugh,
need to talk about that one.
That one was so good.
Yeah, it's
Tom
beautiful.
Hanks is.
I mean, I feel like we just saw.
perfect.
I mean, because the documentary "Won't You Be My Neighbor" kind of brought just the angelic nature of Mr. Rogers kind of back into the public consciousness, and now we're getting like everybody likes kind of those dramatized based on a true story
Yeah.
movies. Everybody loves Tom Hanks. Everybody loves Mr. Rogers.
Yeah,
It's a perfect combination.
and I
think-
believe for this
yeah.
movie, it's the story of this reporter that gave like an in-depth interview with Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
and
No, it's-
apparently that had.
It's based on his writings.
Yeah, that has a big effect on the writer, I suppose, or
It's like a
something of the sort. So that's what this movie is based
There's
on.
an A24 movie called The End of the Tour about a writer, David Foster Wallace,
Oh,
being
with
interviewed by David
Eisenberg?
Lipsky. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel.
Yeah, right.
Which is structurally looks almost like the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes for a good in to the story. So
Yeah,
I think that with a lot going on, people I've noticed have been really more drawn to the feel good movies this year.
Like Bill and Ted.
Well, yeah, I think if
People
Bill
are
and
sick
Ted,
of constant irony and cynicism, and
they're getting so much of it in our like charged political climate that the nation is going
every
through.
movie, every show has to be smart and politically aware and socially conscious, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself. But when everything is doing it, you can't really blame people for. People are like, yes, of course, I'm aware of these things. It's not like I don't want to pay attention, but.
They just want escapism. That's what movies are supposed to be, escapism. And I think people want to escape to something more positive. I think that's why Yesterday is
it's
doing so well.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I wouldn't
slow
even call,
rumble.
I wouldn't even call a movie like Won't You Be My, or A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood escapism. It's just as aware and publicly, socially conscious just about beautiful, optimistic things.
I think people need that.
And about a real person that touched so many lives because he was so open and friendly to just about every person.
People are like, guess what?
It's a good feeling.
There's lots of these ugly, nasty things that are very real and legitimate, but that doesn't mean that there's not lots of real, legitimate kindness and beauty and inspirational things to look for.
Yeah,
and people are just like,
I think if
come
they could
on,
bring
we need
Bob
more
Ross
of these types
back,
of stories.
They would.
I think this is gonna do very well. It played in front of Once Upon a Time, and I don't know about you, but I was hearing quite a few people be like, "So
yes,
it's Mr. Rogers, guys."
And it's Tom Hanks. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom Hanks is nailing how to impersonate Mr. Rogers. Like, I had to do a double take when I first saw it. I was like, "Wait, that's Tom Hanks." Okay, but it was perfect casting.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a great
at
first trailer for this.
Because that's when it comes out.
Families are gonna get together, and it's like, let's go give the kids a positive message.
That's smart.
The people,
That's very
people
smart.
directly next to me, the woman, because it was a couple. She sang the little song because the trailer ends with Mr. Rogers on like the subway, and there's a group of people who like notice him, and then they sing the won't you be my neighbor song to him. And
that classic scene.
After the trailer ended, the woman next to me like kind of sang it quietly to her boyfriend or husband. And she's like, "Did you know the song? Did you know the song?" I knew the song. And I was like, "Oh, this is so beautiful."
So nice. No, I really liked it. I thought the quality was there. I think I wouldn't underestimate that one. That one's going to be good.
Yeah. And then I guess the third trailer that we should probably mention, Zombieland Double Tap.
It's actually happening.
Yeah,
I know, right? It's one of those things where,
oh my goodness,
just because in our job, what we do, we hear about these things way ahead of time.
Yeah,
when they're technically a thing. Like this movie has been announced and it has a release date, but there's no images, no trailers, no nothing. Right. And so we're just kind of aware of it. And then once the actual trailer comes out, then all the other people are like, "Hey, did you know this is a thing?"
Yeah.
How
apparently
awesome was the beginning of the trailer? I don't know about if Eric thought this was cool, or I did. Was Academy Award nominee, Academy Award winner. They are all like
these
amazing,
like serious high grade
all
actors.
Of them.
They draft. I almost said they drafted. They casted.
How crazy!
They casted
is that?
so well back then, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
they knew there was something in all of them.
Is Woody Harrelson nominated? Has he won? I couldn't remember.
He's definitely nominated. I don't think he's won. Emma Stone has won. Jesse Eisenberg was nominated. Abigail Breslin was nominated.
Yeah.
So Emma Stone's the only winner of them all, but still, it's
they all got
well,
nominated.
that's why she was last. They were like Academy
serious
Award winner.
prestige,
and then it's like Zombieland
for Zombieland 2.
Yeah,
but it's awesome that
the crazy gun action shots.
It's awesome that despite how far they've come in their careers, like they're still willing to have fun with each other and go back to this.
Yeah.
No, I thought the trailer was good.
It feels like it's coming back to what the first was, and I think the fans of the movie will like that.
I think there's a lot of good humor. Like I hope that those humor lines weren't just in the trailer, but if that's indicative of what's through the whole movie, I think it's gonna be hilarious.
I feel like it's one of those movies where even if it is a lot like the original, it's been long enough, and that was a totally good formula. It worked for a lot of people. It's not what I would have expected or necessarily wanted from the sequel.
I'd never been clamoring for that. Like, I really do like Zombieland, but I never really clamored for it to be a sequel.
To me, when I first heard that
it was almost a TV show too at one point, and I never understood.
Yeah, when we first found out that a second one was announced, I was like, what could they do with the second one? Aside from probably what they will do and just do the same thing, but whatever. I was thinking like, well, where do they go from here? They're kind of a ragtag found family. What if zombies are just kind of like a nuisance and it's almost not even a zombie movie? Like occasionally they have to, shoot the zombie off their front porch, but it just kind of dives into their own
now how do you survive
chemistry. It's like, how do you survive each other? But I don't know. So that's a thing now.
I kind of wonder if it's going to be a story about them growing apart.
Oh, it's gonna happen. It's in the trailer.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then I guess I was right.
Can we talk about one more trailer? Because I feel like it ties in with this one.
Oh yeah, sure.
Which was the Jay and Silent Bob trailer.
Oh yeah, Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Oh yeah, that did come out during ComicCon.
Oh my god!
For a Kevin Smith movie, it put a smile on my face.
Yes.
It's so childish and naive and juvenile and vulgar, but that's exactly what those characters have always been.
But it harkens back to all of the Kevin Smith films. It's kind of like his retrospective, like
his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I mean, weirdly enough, because he suffered.
You're not
that,
wrong.
He suffered from that massive heart attack.
Oh yeah,
near fatal
long
ago,
attack.
And that definitely has changed his perspective on life and how he condones himself. I mean, he's still the same Kevin Smith, of course, but he just has a different outlook, I think, than as he did before.
You can't deny it doesn't look like a Kevin Smith movie.
I like when he introduces it. I don't know if you saw in like that part where that him and Jace stand there.
Mewes.
Yeah, Jason Mewes stand there and they introduce them. They're like, we're refugees from the 90s.
Yeah.
I was like, the 90s.
Well, it was funny because
factor's high.
It's nostalgia factor, but also just how self-aware they are and what their content is as
and
well.
Where
it works so well. Like I've
their
grown
humor is rooted. It's totally rooted in 90s humor.
I grow so much more fond of Kevin Smith each year.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy for that guy.
You could watch him tell a story for hours. He's such a good.
His podcast.
He's just so good at talking.
Is so good.
And I mean, some of his movies are legitimately great. I love a good amount of his movies. Some of them are
Chasing Amy.
Terrible. But again, it goes back to what I was saying with Nicolas Cage. It's still Kevin Smith. You know,
right.
I want to see what zany new adventure Kevin Smith has.
Yeah.
Because even if it's bad, it's a Kevin Smith adventure, and nothing else is like that. So. Yeah, I forgot about that trailer. Actually, I'm excited.
I feel like Zombieland's doing the same thing where because it's over 10 years now. It's like harkening back to the things that you expect from the first Zombie Land movie. So I'm kind of excited for both. Actually, I just want maybe I'm kind of indicative of what consumers want. We just want something like that's kind of fun. That's not like going to be politically like charged by any means. It's just I want to go have fun during it and laugh, and even if like zombies get blown to pieces, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's super fun to see zombie gore. Zombie gore is awesome.
Although I don't really like zombies, I just never understood them. I'm like,
I just remember they were so played out within like a year, but then they kept happening, and then they kind of went away.
I just meant as a monster, I think they're dumb. The body is going to be deteriorating the whole time. Like, just give it some time, and they're
just going to be skeletons. And they can't stand up. They can't support themselves.
They can't. Well, no, their ligaments are going to be the first to go. They can't move.
The World War Z zombies say otherwise, though. Those things
are those technically zombies, or are they like infected?
Infected zombies. I don't know. Zombie-esque.
I don't know. Our takeaway from this podcast is the world needs more positivity.
I thought you were going to say the world needs more zombies.
Whether that positivity comes from movie stars,
Yeah.
Whether that positivity comes from Bill and Ted 3, whether that positivity comes from Jay and Silent Bob reboot, you know, people just want to feel good.
They want the feel good
well said.
Factors back. Yes.
Whew, that was a lot of stuff.
We finally got through it.
I guess we didn't overhype it at the beginning.
So do you think
that's what I was thinking.
Do you think Once Upon a Time will dethrone Lion King? Probably not.
No, but I do think Once Upon a Time can end up making more than people bargain for.
I think it's going to do solid business for very good reason. It's a beautiful movie. Everybody should go check it out. It is long, so know that when you go in, it was exactly 3 hours when we walked out of the theater. You know, we got there at 7:45.
Yeah.
After the previews and the movie, 10:45 is when I walked out the door. So brace yourselves.
If you guys can watch Avengers Endgame, I think there's a chance you can watch this.
Oh yeah, I forgot that's 3 hours.
Right? It's weird. Anyway, but yeah, I think Lion King will still take
just too big.
The Pride Lands of the box office.
Rule the Pride Lands.
Rule the Pride Lands of the box office. That still wasn't good anyway. Yeah. That's fair.
You tried. Yeah.
Well,
so
I'll try to check out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am kind of going to save it, I think, because I'm going to go on a work trip, not next week, but the week after to visit some clients, and I want to go see it in a good theater.
Yeah,
Same
you don't
thing,
see it here with these non-existent surround sound.
Same thing with Hobbs and Shaw. Like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think I want to see Hobbs and Shaw in this local theater because I want the big explosive
Well, that
sound.
just made me sad.
Right?
Although there's an IMAX theater not far from here.
I know, right?
Man,
Now that I've become aware of these things, it's like,
A connoisseur.
We'll have to think about that. We'll have to think about that. Anyway. Yeah.
So I might not see Hobbs and Shaw on the early show, but I will catch it, and I will catch Once Upon a Time just in a better theater.
cool.
Fair enough with me,
Yeah.
as should you all.
Yeah.
Well,
Demand better at your local theaters.
Protest. Cool. Well, on that note, have a good weekend. Go see Tarantino's 9th film.
Yep. Bask in the
And-
glory of it.
Think positive thoughts.
Yes.
Make sure to check us out at silverscreeninsider.com as well as on the Apple Store, the Apple Podcast
Apple
Store.
Podcast.
iTunes?
iTunes.
iTunes.
Is that
Is that
still?
what? Yeah, it's still
It's
called
Apple,
that.
but I
Okay.
think it's Apple Podcast now.
Wherever you get podcasts through Apple,
check
it's
out
we're there on
our
Off the Break
awesome-
podcast
Our awesome drone
article.
thank you.
Write-up?
And and our reviews on Once Upon a Time, so you can get a little bit more in depth.
It's coming. It's not up yet.
It's coming.
Got to gather my thoughts.
Drone review. Spread the word. We must protect the drive-ins. Bye, everyone.
Bye.